Hello, everybody, and welcome into the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series presented by the Alloy Wheel Repair Specialist, making a stop tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the first round in the playoffs. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on Ghost Racing Network. Qualifying is complete. Drivers down trackside getting ready to get this race going. So before we get into race info, let's get things kicked off tonight with your starting grid. Taking the pole for Team Marble iRacing, it's going to be Tyler Marble in the 48. Starting to his outside in second will be Danny Gutierrez. Scott Glasso back in third. Jeff Shutt fourth. Jacob Musso, Brandon Saylor back in row 3. Jeff Marble, Brian Conklin in row 4. And then it's Austin Fitzgerald and Kenneth Bartholomew rounding out your top 10. Quentin Clark back in 11th. Michael Mueller in 12th. Moving on back to row number 7, it's going to be Jake Hickson alongside Christian Losgen. Jared Bundy 15th. Alan Pajari in 16th. Andrew Russo 17th with Ryan Haynes in 18th, Brett Spod 19th, and Ty Iopolito rounding out your top 20. GT Hawkins sits 21st, Thomas O'Hara 22nd, Tracy Powers back in 23rd, Wesser Jr. in 24th. Then you've got Greg Bartlett 25th, Johnny Mahalchuk in 26th, Kyle Oakley 27th with Glenn Grigsby in 28th, Mark Sabak, the Canadian driver 29th, Anthony Handley in 30th, Caleb Patton, Cody Matthews, row 16, Christopher Hall, Jeffrey Souza in row 17, and Bill Benedict rounds out the field tonight. He starts in 35th. Looking at your race info real quick, it is the Atlanta Fall 200 for the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series. 130 laps to distance here tonight at 100% fuel. 4 sets of tires, open setups with no fast repairs. 3 green-white checkers. Track temp is 110 degrees. Partly cloudy skies. Winds at 10 miles an hour. And we are ready to go. The first race of the playoffs and the first race in the round of 16. Green flag is in the air. We're underway at Atlanta. Lap 1 complete, and it goes to the 48 of Tyler Marble as the rest of the field still 2x2 besides those top 3. Scott Glasso, Jacob Musso on the inside, and then just behind them is where the 2x2 gets going with Danny Gutierrez and the 27 of Jeff Shutt. And by the way, you know, I know it's only 2 laps complete, but we already saw just in that first lap some slipping and sliding going on, and that's going to be the theme here tonight. You can see just how high up the track everybody drifted right there through 3 and 4, and this track temp, it's not, you know, maybe the hottest track temp we've seen all season. I wouldn't even argue that it's necessarily scorching. However, it is warm enough that when tires start to wear out on these race cars, handling is going to become a major factor in the way that you try to strategize and potentially win this race. By the way, one thing that we're going to go ahead and get to really early, and I do kind of want to get some clarification on for everybody, is what the round of 16 is looking like. And so first off, normally you might notice a couple things off. OBS was not being very friendly to me here tonight, so I tried to work on a few things, and a lot of things didn't work, so I had to make sure that I didn't break anything that messed up the overlays. That's why you see some of these screens a little bit messed up here tonight, and unfortunately that's the other reason that SDK does not quite have the setup that I was trying to get ready for the playoffs here tonight, with, of course, the drivers being in the round of 16 having a P next to their name. So that will be set up next week. Now, for tonight, that doesn't mean that there's not still a lot on the line, because look at the playoff picture as it stands. All these drivers that you see on the left side of your screen in that picture, those are the drivers that currently run in the round of 16, which will be 3 races long, and then we will eliminate 4 of them as we move on to the round of 12, and that cut line is going to move quite a bit as we continue to go through the rest of this race, and then, of course, the next 2 races after that. But the big idea here is get a win and get yourself locked into that next round, and Atlanta is the best track to make that happen at. So we'll see who can get the job done here tonight, whether it's a playoff driver or not. But again, we'll try our best to keep tabs on that for everybody that's watching here tonight. And so as they stay pretty much 2x2 further back, the front has been the only area that we have not seen a lot of contest, although Danny Gutierrez was able to go up there and take over the lead. And that 08 is looking very, very sporty so far. Tyler Marble in the 48, who sits in 4th. That's where the 2x2 now begins. Michael Mueller in the 99. Remember how good the Riot Motorsports teammates are when they start to get working together and get a draft going. When I say get a draft going, I'm more referring to when they start to get an actual tandem going right here as Quentin Clark is lining up his back bumper, and you can't, it's not like Daytona and Talladega in these cars where you can necessarily try to tandem up and push in the corners, although it could be interesting to see if anybody is going to maybe try it later on in the race. But again, what you can do is you can certainly try to tandem down these straightaways and maybe push a guy off into the corner as soon as you get off the turn as well. Carry as much momentum as possible. The outside, though, getting really, really high up the racetrack right now as we hop on board here with the 99 of Michael Mueller. Show the dashboard speeds here, almost 190 miles an hour as they work their way down into turn 1. On the outside, though, he's taking the longer way around. This is where he loses some of that momentum, but then as they get back onto the straightaway here, puts the hammer down, and he's able to get enough of a push to start to even him back out, maybe gain just a little bit. And it's full throttle right now, and I would think that if you're up front at least, it's going to stay that way for pretty much the entirety of the race. But if you're in a little bit of a group here, or maybe you're not quite one of those 2 lead cars, that's where you could potentially have to do a little bit of throttle control as we ride aboard here with Jeff Shutt. As he gets in the corner here, you can hear it. He's not full throttle. He has to bail out of it, and you can see it on the telemetry there on the bottom right. Just that little bit of throttle, kind of playing with the throttle just to kind of manage the gap, manage the run, if you will, so that he doesn't get too big a run, get into Jacob Musso. At the same time, he doesn't fall too far back and cause this inside line to maybe fade just a little bit. Going to be 9, 10, make it 10 actually as they cross the line. Laps complete of 130 so far here tonight. Now pit stop's going to be the other big question, and in these cars at this track, you can make it right around, if I have the fuel numbers right from what I remember last time, somewhere right around 64 laps. And that's kind of an interesting number, right? Because the race is 130. So if you can make it to 65 laps, you can make this thing a one-stop. And I think that's got to be the strategy that just about everybody would want to consider and try here tonight. And to do that and, you know, save a little bit of fuel, you don't want to run up front. You want to run in a pack. So Danny Gutierrez continues to get laps led, but at the same time, you wonder for the 08 here, is maybe he going to be burning just a little bit too much fuel if he continues to stay out in front with just 11 laps complete. Now, Danny Gutierrez right now, as it stands, is one of the drivers who did not quite make it into the round of 16, wasn't able to quite make the playoffs, but still nonetheless a very talented veteran of the series. He knows how to get it done on super speedways. We've seen it already. And this season, we saw a couple of really close chances at not just super speedways, but kind of a handful of tracks. Unfortunately, though, for Danny, just never quite panned out. We'll see if he can maybe find that first one in the playoffs, because another thing that they've got going, which is kind of interesting here for the playoffs, they had this last season, is that there's still a points battle, but it's for the drivers who aren't running for a championship. So any driver that did not make the playoffs is still eligible if they are the highest averaging finish, the highest average finishing driver throughout all these races through the playoffs and through the championship. Then they will be awarded, I believe it was $15 to first. The second highest average finishing driver gets $10, and third gets $5. Again, just a little bit of an extra bonus to try to keep everybody honest and keep everybody out here running the rest of the season. And of course, never too early to start getting some practice for what we could potentially expect next season. So as Danny Gutierrez continues to lead, it's the 24 of Brandon Saylor for Team Marble iRacing, one of the rookies in the field who currently sits in second. And you go back a spot, you find one of his teammates, Brian Conklin, who sits in third, make it a trio of Team Marble iRacing cars as Tyler Marble currently sits in fourth. And then Michael Mueller, the first of those Riot Motorsports teammates on the outside, he sits in fifth. He's got a teammate, Quentin Clark, just behind him. Christian Losgen, he's already made his way to the front. Alan Pajari in ninth. You heard Austin Fitzgerald after last week talking about his teammate and saying, you know, it wasn't quite the season Alan wanted to put together. You know, one of the drivers who I think everybody probably had automatically checked, you know, at the start of the season that he was going to make the playoffs, and it just didn't quite pan out that way. And so one of the two veterans on that team not being able to make the playoffs with, you know, all three of the other teammates, you know, for Alan, that's kind of, I don't want to call it a chip on the shoulder, but that's going to kind of serve as some motivation, right? He wants to go out here and show these guys, I know how to get the job done. It just hasn't been the best of seasons, at least not as of yet. We'll see if he can get a turnaround, of course, before things are all said and done. Still 2x2 now with 16 of 130 laps complete. Another rule that's in effect here tonight, by the way, for those pit stops is you have to get on the apron going into turn 3 and then just slow down and make it onto the pits by the time you, of course, exit turn 4, which is the same rule that they ran in the real-life Cup race, and it's probably a pretty good idea for this track. And if you've seen any officials here or had a chance to race them, you kind of know what happens when guys try to pit from the racetrack onto the pit lane off of 4, where the pit road, it comes up so quick, and you're going from, wide open at almost 185 miles an hour in the corner down to pit road speed, which is somewhere between probably 40 and 60 miles an hour. And so your best hope if you're pitting on the track is that everybody goes high to dodge you. But if there's, even an ounce of miscommunication for anybody in one of these packs, that they don't know who's pitting and they run into them, it could cause a massive, massive multi-car pileup. And with no fast repairs, that's going to be another thing to stress about, because they already know that we could see the big one at some point here tonight. And of course, everybody going to be hoping that that is not the case and that we can keep this thing green just about all the way. But whenever it comes to super speedway racing, which Atlanta now classifies at since the repave here just a few years ago, everybody gets a little bit more anxious. It's opportunity with the chances to win with the equalizer of the draft, but at the same time, can get yourself in trouble early, especially when you go up here and try to race for it. And boy, Michael Mueller, this car just continues to work further and further up the banking in 3 and 4, and it's almost to the point where he's almost tapping that outside wall. Now, granted, he has closed up just a little bit here on the gap that inside lane has made, but it's not much. And to be honest, I think I'm a little shocked to see the 99 running this high. I'm not sure if he's trying to manage his tires or if he's just more comfortable up there, but usually the idea is if you're on that outside, you're trying to side draft the inside lane, pull them back a bit. But Michael Bueller not doing that right now. Maybe trying to stay up there so that his teammate at 00, Quentin Clark, has a chance to cool down a little bit. And so they'll continue to try this strategy until maybe somebody either splits them or somebody else from the bottom decides to jump up. But nobody's done so yet, at least not through the first 20 laps that we have now ran here in this 200-mile event. Again, if you're just tuning in, we certainly appreciate you being here. One more time, I do want to give a brief update for anybody that missed it on some of the things here for tonight. Biggest thing, I did have a few troubles. I said earlier, a single trouble was kind of a mixture of a couple things that weren't going right for me here tonight. SDK was giving me some trouble as it wouldn't let me update the overlay, so I was not able to put in the playoff format that I normally would, that we've had over the course of last season, of course. And then a couple things on OBS itself, which you'll probably notice when we go to an ad break, are also not quite in correct format. So OBS was giving me a little bit of trouble as well. So I do apologize for that, but the good news is we still have the regular timing overlay up here for tonight, so don't have to worry about any issues there. And we still have an idea of who's in the playoffs, who's not, and what a win would mean to really anybody, but especially certain drivers who really feel like they need to lock themselves in here tonight. They don't want to wait till next week because of all the unexpectedness that is going to pop up with the next two tracks in this round. Watkins Glen, the road course, is going to be next week. A lot of guys do not like that track. Some of them love it. If you're Tyler Marble, you probably don't care how the race goes here tonight. You just want to move on to Watkins Glen. But if you're, say one of the drivers, let's go back a little bit and use an example here. We'll say one of the drivers closer to that cut line right now. Kenneth Bartholomew, Jacob Musso, 15th and 16th right now in the playoff standings. If they can win here tonight, those points don't matter anymore. They jump automatically to the next round. And so that's what they're going to be fighting for, whereas the driver, say Tyler Marble, who again right now sits in 4th in the playoff standings, and he knows how good he is at Watkins Glen, he's not too worried. He's out here trying to get maybe some extra points, see what he can do, but not a lot of pressure for that 48 team here tonight, that is for sure. Bristol going to be that third and final race in the round of 16, the night race, as that will be another one of the No Bull 5 races. And again, that one I think is going to spell chaos, maybe even more than we see at a track like Atlanta here tonight, as there is a lot of things that can happen to Bristol on a track that doesn't have much room and is extraordinarily fast for how short it is in length. So now we take an onboard view with the 48 of Tyler Marble, who we were just mentioning, as he'll kick off our driver cams here on the night. And Tyler Marble out of Buffalo, New York. This is by no means his first season making the playoffs. Made the Final Four last season. He's going to be trying to do more of the same this season. We go on back a little bit further to his teammate, the captain for Team Marble iRacing, Jeff Marble, who right now sits in that 18th spot. He's down 11 from where he started this race at. I wonder if he just dropped out because he thought things were maybe a little sketchy up front, maybe saving a little fuel, combination of both. Either way, that's another driver who made it to the championship for last season. We'll see if he can do more of the same this year. Moving further back in the field, all the way back. In fact, I'd have to go a little bit further up in the field, rather. We find ourselves Jeff Shutt. Let's stop at Jeff Shutt first. Driver number 27 for No Excuses Racing. Of course, last week, actually make the week before when we were at Daytona, or what a race that was, and then Darlington last week, with, again, that one being another one of the Capital Auto Group sponsored races. he almost got the job done. I mean, he was fighting for it for all he was worth at the end, but unfortunately just tires didn't quite work out with the guys who had better ones behind him. He wasn't quite able to hold on there at the end, but you heard even Jeff Marble, who was able to get a podium in that race, say how good of a job Jeff Shutt did, and was kind of rooting for him because he knows what we all know, and that's what we've seen all season, how close he's come to victory lane. And unfortunately, still no cigar, at least not as of yet. Here's the rookie Christian Lostgen, who currently sits up 7 positions from where he started this race at, as he currently runs in that 7th spot. And then move up just a little bit further. We talked about Tyler Marble, but somebody else that's been going in the right direction is Kyle Oakley. He's up 12 positions from where he started this race at, and this is a driver who, although he went winless on the season, had plenty of consistency, and that was how he got himself into the playoff picture here for this season. Currently sits 13th in the playoff standings, and right now it's just 1 spot out for making the next round. Now again, still plenty of time for Kyle Oakley, but this is a track that I got to think he's looking to try to take advantage of as well. See how things pan out for him here tonight. And then for BMP Racing, 2 drivers in the field here tonight, and the one that is carrying an onboard camera for us is the man that sits in 9th, and that is Ryan Haynes. Go up here and take a look at the view for the 39. This is from the rear chase, but I will go back to the cockpit here as he sits on the outside. That's the driver out of Center Hill, Florida. And right now, there's not much he can do because he's only got 2 in front of him, and they're not making much progress, although, again, I wonder if he's saving a little fuel, trying to save a little bit of tire as well. And I know I mentioned saving fuel already a couple times, but one thing I didn't mention that's still equally as important is saving tire. Now, we're at the point in the run where you've probably already done most of your saving, as, again, we're about halfway through the run, maybe just a little bit under at the moment, but the idea here is that you got to save enough tires so that you have grip throughout the entirety of the run, but at the same time, you don't want to just sit back, lose all the track position, then have to waste those tires to try to get back to the front. So you got to kind of find that happy medium, which it seems like Danny Gutierrez has done a great job so far of here tonight because he continues to lead the way. That clean air is feeling great on his Goodyear tires. As Brandon Saylor, Brian Conklin sits 2nd and 3rd. And there goes the 90 of Bill Benedict as he works his way out of the pits. Not sure what the issue was right there, but one thing that we have had develop while we were taking a look at the different driver cams is we now have 2 packs on the racetrack here. And this is interesting to see this second group already have fallen this far back. Right now, that group's being led by the Canadian driver Mark Zabak, Johnny Mihalchuk 2nd in that group, and then Glenn Grigsby, who sits in 26th, is there, as well as Cody Matthews, Caleb Patton, Christopher Hall, Greg Bartlett, Thomas O'Hara, and Tracy Powers. So there's no real lack of cars for that group, but apparently there's a lack of pace, as they have just not been able to reel in the leaders at all. In fact, they continue to lose some time here. And as we go back to some of the stragglers here, Bill Benedict, who is not currently on the lead lap, is getting ready to get picked up by that second group. And then Jeffrey Souza, who sits all by himself right now, he is not currently on the lead lap either. And both of those guys going to be looking for a caution. Jeffrey Souza going to be the next car that the leaders will go by once they eventually get to him. And in fact, Souza 22 down, Benedict 30 down. And so clearly that was major issues for both of those two. And they're just out here tonight to try to have some fun, even though they know realistically with the way they're being scored, there's obviously no chance in coming back for a competitive finish in this race. 33 of 130 laps now complete. It'll be 34 as they cross the line of 130. And so with that, we're going to take a quick break as Danny Gutierrez continues to lead here at Atlanta. Welcome back to Atlanta Motor Speedway for the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series. And tonight, the Atlanta Fall 200. So far, so good, as we've not had any yellows as of yet. They were working by the 96 of Souza here. Ooh, man, the 39 of Ryan Haynes had a brief blink right there as they were trying to split him, and it got a little sketchy as now Jared Bundy's going to have to thread the needle. He'll do so without any issue, and Jeffrey Souza, ideally, is going to try to fall to the back of this pack and tuck in line and can hope for a caution, although with as many laps down as he is, I don't think it's going to necessarily do too much for his chances here tonight. But we are now 40 of 130 laps through this race, and pit stops slowly but surely getting closer and closer. Right now, we would expect them to be anywhere from about 20 to 25 laps from now, I guess, depending on how much fuel you feel like you can, or how far you can stretch the fuel. Now, I think if you're Danny Gutierrez, you're going to be pitting probably at least a lap, if not 2 laps, sooner than everybody else. Again, this would be my guess, as the 08 has been out in front so far just about every single lap, besides the beginning maybe. But, you know, at the same time, if you're Brandon Saylor, he's been drafted pretty good, but he's had to do some pushing to keep everybody up here. Maybe he's a lap or 2 sooner as well. And then once you start to get back third on back, those are the guys that, as long as they've been saving a little bit of fuel, they might be able to stretch it to this lap 65 mark. Again, if they can, then I would expect this to be a one-stop. If they pit before lap 65, well, that might be a different story. We could very well potentially be seeing 2 pit stops. And again, you can't forget that you've only got, well, actually, you've got plenty of tires here tonight, but you've only got so much time on the pits while you're waiting for fuel to take those tires. So as a driver, maybe you only choose to take 2. I'm not sure how they feel about the handling. I know the next gens probably handle a little bit better on old tires than some of the other series, but depending on just how bad the fall off is, do you risk not taking tires, try to get that, you know, bigger gap on everybody else, or do you just take 4? I think if we had a green flag stop at this point, you take 4, because again, you're filling it up all the way with gas, which should, in theory, be enough time to take 4 tires as well and not have to worry about waiting on the tires. If anything, you'd probably be waiting on the fuel. And slowly but surely, more drivers now are starting to single file out to the bottom lane. That might be indications that either some of them are getting ready for pit stops, although again, we think it's a little too early for that. Maybe more so that everybody's just kind of ready to duck down and take it easy here for a little bit until we do get to that green flag pit stop. Some drivers love making it to a pit stop because they know that it can thin the herd significantly, which can help your chances if you're somebody that knows you're good in the pits, knows you won't make a mistake. And so right now, up front is the only real 2x2 action that we have, and it's actually about back in row 5. But with all the blinking going on for Ryan Haynes, he's going to have to drop back, and this is going to really hurt this outside line. Now it's just 2 of the Riot Motorsports teammates, Quentin Clark, Michael Mueller, trying to keep themselves up here. We'll see how long they can hold on. Scott Glasso right now sits down 3 positions from where he started this race. However, still has a good run going as he sits currently just 1 spot outside of the top 5. He is in 6th at the moment. We've already talked about the job Christian Lostjen has done so far, but Jacob Musso, another one of the single car teams this season, he's got a good run going so far here tonight as he sits just outside the top 10. And then there's Jake Hickson, one of the rookies for Dynamic Autosport in the 16 car, trying to see if, well, I mean, he's already made his first playoff appearance, so he's 1-1 in that category, but he's trying to see if he can maybe make it all the way to the championship in just his first season. And I could give you a pretty good guess that he would have at least one teammate in that championship, at least if things kind of stay the way that they've been going here over the course of, I don't know, the last half the season, where Austin Fitzgerald has taken home 10 wins. Well, he took home the 10 in total throughout the season, but the point is he really started to get on that hot streak the second half of the regular season, and for the 74, I mean, just pure dominance leading up to the playoffs. What else can you say? Uh-oh, Ryan Haynes, 39, did he get spun? Looked like he got turned as he was kind of blinking around. He saved it, and now he's just trying to fade back here. I think he's hoping to get out of the way, which that's exactly what it is here, and it looks like he will, as, man, you hate to see that for Ryan, but that car is just, it's blinking everywhere right now. Not really anything he can do, per se, as he just continues to fade back, hoping that that internet's going to straighten itself out a little bit. Watch this through 3 and 4. I thought for sure he got wrecked right here, and there's nothing Wesser Jr. can do. I mean, he can't tell what the 39's doing when it's blinking, and then right as he kind of blinks back, you see the contact. Next thing you know, he's in the wall and straightened out. So good save by Ryan Haynes there, but definitely a difficult situation there with the technical difficulties that it seems like he's having at the moment. Just about at the lap 50 mark here tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And so far, Danny Gutierrez still looking very, very good out in front. We've seen 2 packs develop over the course of the 50 laps that we've ran so far. And the big question, and depending on how it all pans out, will kind of determine the strategy and the way the rest of this race goes, is those green flag pit stops, if we can get there. Now about 10 to 15 laps away from making it to that point. And for everybody, I mean, of course, the drivers that are up front, but for everybody, with the way this kind of new pit road's designed, the way the rule is tonight, I should say, with, you know, everybody having to go down, going into 3, staying on the apron, and then pitting off of 4. What do? I mean, do you try to dive it in really deep and drive as hard as you can through 3 and 4 and check up, or do you just try to play it conservative so that you don't make a mistake and then have to maybe lose a little bit of time in the process? It's a tough call to make, but what you can't do is get yourself a penalty. Because, again, I know there's a good chance that we see a caution, but with the way it's going right now, you can't assume. If you assume here, could make a mistake later on in the race. Not necessarily a mistake. If you make a mistake here, it could hurt you later on in the race. If we don't see a caution, you don't have a chance to get grouped back up with the field, although I don't think we have seen nearly the level of aggression that we're going to see later on, as right now this field, again, seems pretty content to stay single file up front, 2x2 towards the middle portions of this pack. And there's the 12 of Wesser Jr., who currently sits in the 9th spot, and for Wesser Jr., after last week, he probably had a big sigh of relief because he had technically locked himself in the playoffs early on in the season, but the problem was he hadn't been making enough races to meet the minimum requirement to indeed make the playoffs. So he had to kind of sweat one out there towards the end of the season to make sure that he would accumulate enough points to finish in a certain spot to still make the playoffs, which he did. And now it's time to kind of regroup and go to work again for the 12. As right now he's got the 5 of GT Hawkins, one of the rookies, sitting behind him. .53 of 130 now complete. Side by side still into turn 3. No moves being made up front. Danny Gutierrez still leads. Brandon Saylor in 2nd. And Brian Conklin in 3rd. Right now that's a 2-3 position running order for Team Marble iRacing. Danny Gutierrez, I believe he might run with them on these tracks as well, so that would technically make it a 1-2-3-4, as Tyler Marble currently sits in 4th, Michael Mueller's in 5th, and then Quentin Clark, his teammate, currently sits back in 6th. Now, a driver who, you know, we were excited to see in the field here tonight, or I thought we were going to see in the field, was Anthony Hanley. That would have added a 3rd entry to the Riot Motorsports boys, but he did not make the field, so unfortunately we're not going to see it. Almost a little bit of 3 wide there is GT Hawkins with a bit of a checkup. Taio Polito has to as well. It looks like as they all start to get it back together and regroup, that outside lane starts to get some momentum again here. Did Michael Mueller have something figured out that we didn't see up here in the booth? As high as he's running, though, it just seems like they just can't quite maintain. And now at this point, you would obviously wonder, is it just the line that he's still trying to make work, or is the old tires, especially that right front, just really hurting for him right now? Different drivers will complain about different parts of the car depending on the way you drive it. If, you know, you're getting into the corners really shallow, really aggressive, that right front is going to get worn out quickly, and you're going to be saying the car's tight. Whereas if you maybe arc the car a little bit more and you put the throttle down pretty early trying to get on the exit, maybe the back end starts to slide around a little bit and drivers complain about it being too loose. Either way, it's open setup, so you can kind of adjust things to a degree to the way you want them. Not just before the race, of course, with kind of making all the main adjustments, but even fine-tunings during the race. And we'll see if anybody decides to make any here on this first pit stop once we get to it. Kenneth Bartholomew, the rookie we talked about, he is in the playoffs. Made it to the round of 16. Right now he sits in 20th. Down 10 positions from where he started this race at. He's going to have to pick it up just a little bit here if he wants to gain some track position, at least here before the pit stop, that is. That is the best sound right there in all of racing. Almost 40 cars going flying by through turn 3 and 4. As the rest of them all still trying to play catch-up that won that second group, which, you know, actually looking at the gaps here, it's 7 seconds right now between Ryan Haynes and Johnny Mahalchuk, who leads that second pack at the moment. And so for the 72, he's doing his job pretty well, as I believe they've closed that gap down at least a little bit. And it appears they have done just that. So we'll see if this continues here. Glenn Grigsby, of course, doing a great job as well, as he's doing all the pushing. And ooh, just as I said that, man, it looked like he got the 72. A little bit out of shape right there, but he is going to be able to hold on. All right, here we go as they cross the line this time. This is kind of when, in my mind, I would think drivers would start to consider that pit stop, but we're looking to see probably about 6 more laps from now before they indeed do try to come in to take 4 tires and fill it up with fuel. And then that will, of course, be the halfway point, and we'll dial in here and see if these guys can keep it going for the second half. And well, I'll tell you what, this lead pack up front, they have still not all sorted out. In fact, now they're way out of shape. Ooh, GT Hawkins tagged the outside wall right there in the quad oval. And that could have been a whole lot worse there as he was able to hold on to it. Luckily, didn't get clipped by anybody as he was saving it. And the quad oval is kind of a thing that we didn't really talk about, but it is very, very tricky. Drivers, I can tell you as a rookie in these cars, I got into it a couple times myself whenever you go here because the way it's set up, you don't really expect it. Uh-oh, we got one losing it around on the inside further back here. I think it was the 74 Fitzgerald. Looks like he's going to save it. But let's go back and watch this big moment here for the 74 through 3 and 4. Does he just get on the apron and get loose? Boy, it certainly looks like that, doesn't it? Let's watch this here from the chopper view first off. All right, so here we go. Watch Austin Fitzgerald. There's a check up in front. He dives to the apron initially. Now he's got to get back up, which he kind of starts to do, but then kind of gets straddled in the middle. And when he does, car just starts to get loose, wiggles around. He does save it, though, as his teammate Jake Hickson was able to miss it. Jared Bundy gets kind of pushed just a little bit high and clips the outside wall, but I don't think really any damage on either of those cars. And again, a great save right there by Austin Fitzgerald. Well, the 99 of Michael Mueller was finally able to find a spot on the inside of the racetrack after being the leader up top for pretty much the entirety of that second lane's existence. Now, they never really got to the front specifically, but the 99 was leading it. As the 12 Wesser Jr. will see, is he going to be nice here and let the 5 of GT Hawkins in? It doesn't look like it yet. They still stay side by side this time off of turn 4 as we now take 63 of 130 complete. But what I wanted to say about this quad oval here and what makes it so interesting is the way it's shaped as a driver. And, you know, I know we're on board with Danny here, but let's go back to a driver who's kind of in the middle of this pack. We'll say, let's go to the outside line, as that's where I feel like it's probably the trickiest of anywhere. And so we'll go to GT Hawkins here. So watch as they work their way off of 4 here onto the front stretch. And what you'll notice is that as a driver, you kind of have to have the wheel turned before you get to the quad oval. Watch right there how he's kind of already turning the wheel, because look how much he washes up. And so if he's not careful, especially on the exit of the quad oval there before you get to turn 1, it is very easy to get into that outside wall, which has a tendency to bounce you back down the racetrack, and it's a whole mess. So we'll see, but now that everybody's lined up, I think we're getting ready for pit stops here. This will be coming to lap 65. I would think you either go in as a driver this lap or potentially next lap. If you still got enough fuel, though, to go another handful, maybe you do, just so that you can, you know, try to make it to a point where if we have some overtimes, you can keep going without having to come back into pit for fuel. So we are now officially halfway through this 200-mile event, and so far it has been all green flag racing up front, and it's been good stuff, too, for Brandon Saylor, who now takes over the lead from Danny Gutierrez, who, again, remember when we talked about the 08 and all the laps that he led? Well, the only problem for Danny Gutierrez as a result of doing that was the track position that you kind of worried he might lose if, you know, he had to pit early, and I think that's kind of exactly what happened. Is, oh, Mueller, Quentin Clark, big lockup for the 00. I think he was able to slide into the pits without overshooting, but big question is, did he get a speeding penalty here? Glenn Grigsby and a lot more are going to go ahead and pit here as well. That's Mark Zabak. Looks like the 32 here of Caleb Patton. He's decided to pit. So is the 38 of Christopher Hall. And there's the 72 of Mahalchuk. He'll get into his box preferably clean. And then Danny Gutierrez all by himself. He had to pit the soonest. Right now, he's probably just hoping that he can get some help here. As here comes the rest of the field. Are they all getting clean? Well, I don't know about the rest of the field, but this group that just came in certainly did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars is what made up this second pack now that is pit. Glenn Grigsby there maybe with some engine troubles. Is going to be able to get back out. Him and Tyler Marble have to get this sorted out here pretty quickly. 48's going to check up, lets the 64 go by, and now he'll dive down to his pit stop. And so once everybody comes out here, that leaves now just a few drivers left on the racetrack that I would think realistically have got to be considering pitting pretty soon here. I'm just not sure how much farther really anybody could go. Is Kenneth Bartholomew with some trouble here maybe. The 77, watching that car, it looks to be, excuse me, not the 77 here. Back that up. I was looking for Kenneth Bartholomew. And he is falling in a hurry here. The 73, I don't think he got any damage. I'm not really sure, as a matter of fact, what happened. Maybe some troubles getting into the pits. Maybe got into the grass here. Let's see. That's exactly what it is. As he's trying to slow up, and just gets maybe a little bit of help there from Kyle Oakley. Gets that car turned up the racetrack, gets into the grass, and then he's got to come all the way back down, and that takes a while, and then still has to try to maintain pit road speed. So it's a tough break for Bartholomew. Seemed like overall was having a pretty good night as well so far. So now that puts Alan Pajari to the point. Ty Iopolito second. And those two teammates probably going to stick together here until the pit stop because they've got a third with Jake Hickson and a fourth with Austin Fitzgerald. And so they are looking to put down some really fast laps right now. The Dynamic Auto Sports Group, that is, as we have now hit officially 61 laps to go here at the fastest mile and a half of the season. Pajari, though, continuing to stay out. Watch for these cars to dip down into turn 3 if they're going to pit. Doesn't look like anybody's going to bite that time. So, as Pajari continues to lead and as we await for everything to completely cycle out, we're going to take another quick break, but we'll be right back. Stick with us as Alan Pajari leads here at Atlanta. Welcome back to the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series Atlanta Fall 200 here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Well, now pit stops officially complete up front. Brian Conklin currently being scored as your leader in that 37 car. Brandon Saylor in second, Wes Hurd Jr. in third, Tyler Marble fourth, and Jeff Marble fifth, Christian Lodge in sixth, Michael Mueller in seventh, Danny Gutierrez eighth with Scott Glasso ninth, and then Austin Fitzgerald is the last man inside the top 10. But this is where the break in the packs are. The question is, how close are they and can they track him down? As it stands, he's just under 3 seconds behind Scott Glasso, but the good news for Fitzgerald here is the guys that he's got lined up behind him here. I mean, look at this. Look at it pushing down the straightaway. This is the rear onboard view, if you will, for Austin Fitzgerald. That's Jake Hickson, his Dynamic Auto Sports rookie teammate, who's going to be pushing him down both straights here, trying everything to get that car back to the front of the field, or back to, I guess I should say, the rear bumper of that lead pack. to give them a chance, and it's working. They've got it down to 2.5 seconds now. Remember, they've got to get to within 1.5 seconds to start to catch a bit of a draft, and once you catch a draft at a track like this, you're going to be able to pull all the way up. So up front, as they continue to stay single file in a pretty long line, Team Marble iRacing, another group that's not looking like they're in too bad of a position. Wesser Jr., the only car separating them from winning 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. By the way, Danny Gutierrez, who had to pit a bit early, looks like it still worked out for that 08 in terms of running order. But unfortunately here for the 08, you start to wonder, can he still make it on fuel in the same kind of boat as everybody else? We'll have to find out. But, you know, we're going to be hitting 50 laps to go here in just a few laps. And once we get to that point, there's still nobody that should be expecting to have to pit again. At least not that we know of based off the data, except maybe that 08 of Danny Gutierrez. But we'll see if maybe he can stretch it now that he's in the pack saving a bit. And so it's technically go time really at any point. I mean, this is time to start picking off track position, because you're not going to be able to get it all at the end, and eventually things are going to start picking up here. We're going to start to see some more 2x2, and once that becomes the case, you need to be in good position to make moves. Otherwise, you could find yourself in trouble. Looking back for that second group, the gap right now between Christian Losgen and Austin Fitzgerald is about 2.9 seconds, so that gap did stretch back out just a little bit. And man, this is such an interesting spot for Fitzgerald. I've been in a position like this before where you can see the leaders, and man, you're trying everything you can to catch up to them. You feel like you're doing everything right, but you just can't seem to quite get there. Now, once they start getting 2x2, that could certainly help, but even if they don't, Fitzgerald now looks like he's starting to reel him back in, and I think the biggest thing now is it's just Jake Hickson trying to manage the temps, trying to make sure he pushes this 74 correctly. That's kind of a hard combo to do, especially when it's a teammate. You don't want to wreck him, but you know, Fitzgerald's probably in the rookie's ear right now, letting him know, hey, we're going to have to push to get back to the front, otherwise there's no point. And they're almost there now, about 2.3 seconds. They need to pick up about another 0.8 of a second, and they will be back within drafting range. So we'll look at that gap here in just another lap or two, as they will probably have arrived by then, at least in the draft. And they're going to go by the 90 of Bill Benedict here down the front straight away. Again, multiple laps down for the 90. Had an issue that didn't really allow him to start the race, so he's just out here running for what he can. We'll see if he can maybe drop into the back of this draft and have some fun himself, and also kind of act as a bridge car. So again, help Fitzgerald, the company, pull up to the back bumper. They're now 1.7 seconds behind, and you can see him now in the same camera view. Once they catch the draft here of actually, and Christopher Hall, Cody Matthews are actually behind Losgen, so they're there. They are there. What a job by Fitzgerald, Jake Hickson, Ty Iopolito, everybody else in this group, Andrew Russo, GT Hawkins, and everybody on back to get themselves organized enough and work together long enough to be able to catch back up to this lead pack. And now that you get there, you start thinking about, if you're Fitzgerald right here, he knows he's in the draft, he knows they're going to get there. When he does, what does he do with all that momentum? Because he is going to have a lot of it. Does he try to take it to the outside to make a move, or does he stay in line for now and try to save his cards for later in the race? I think you got to go for it now. I think when you get up there, you're making this move. I think if you I think the problem is if he tries to wait here, somebody else gets the jump on him, and that big momentum that you get. Look at this. I mean, Bill Benedict here. We'll see if he goes high. Yes, he will. Fitzgerald had to burp the throttle briefly, but it won't matter because he's going to get another big run, and if he sets this up right, watch for that 74 here down the front stretch. It may not even take that long. It won't. He's got the run into 3, and here goes Austin Fitzgerald. This is going to be looking to the outside with 2 of his teammates, Hickson and Ty Iopolito. Everybody else is still trying to play catch-up with the big run that group had. They very well may have just set the fastest laps of the race. And now Fitzgerald is going to go to work here on Cody Matthews as he stays high. Hickson will stay in tow, and Ty Iopolito stays third in that line. Who is going to try to jump up first? I would think somebody somewhere in this pack tries to make a block, and there you go. Scott Glasso not going to make a block, but he is going to make a move to try to go with the momentum that this top lane has. Now Jeff Marble's going to do the same. The 15 jumps out of line. And the more cars this outside gets, the faster that lane is going to move towards the front. Brandon Saylor still leads the way with Brian Conklin in second, but now that Jeff Marble is looking to go to the front, watch for that 48, the blue and white Napa machine, to maybe jump up as well in front of his teammate. Still single file for the first 5 rows, and now Michael Mueller, the 99, boy, he tried to make the move, maybe just a little bit too late, or does the 99 have another peek at it? He'll have another peek. He jumps up. Tyler Marble is not going to be able to cover that move. This will now add yet another car. Jeff Marble, does he split him? Yes, he does. Jeff Marble's going to take the rookie 3 wide into the corner. And which lane does Scott Glasso go with? Looks like the 4 is going to choose to stay high for now. That leaves Fitzgerald with a choice. Who is he going to go with? Looks like for now he stays high. And boy, Michael Mueller, how about that? He got split in the middle after making a move that looked like was going to take him to the front. And as they stay 3 wide, everybody keeps it clean for now. Jeff Marble getting a little bit of drafting assist from Tyler Marble. And looks like those two will get clear. Scott Glasso is going to try to follow this group here. Not going to be able to do it. He's stuck on the outside as Mueller is still trapped in between the 7 and the 4. Nowhere to go as the 99 slips up just a little bit. And now Mueller's going to just kind of have to accept it for what it is as he drops back in line. But he's probably saying to himself, I'll remember that move if you need any help late in the race, Jeff, as I'm sure he didn't appreciate that one. But we're getting closer to the end, so everybody's starting to pick up the pace. And 24, Brandon Saylor, though, him and Brian Conklin have just looked so smooth up front. Remind you of pretty much the entire first run where Danny Gutierrez led the most laps, where the guy in second has gotten in such a rhythm, it almost looks like they're both kind of moving as one car. As we switch to the blimp cam here, you see the 48 of Tyler Marble getting another pretty big run on the outside here. Jeff ducking low for just a little bit of air. Scott Glasso had it clearing on the inside, thought maybe he would take it, but he will not. And so from what we've seen so far here tonight, outside has not been the place to be, but now you've got 2 teammates locked up, which you did earlier, but you wonder if maybe since it's a bit of a different duo, do they have a little better chemistry? We're going to find out here over the course of these next 40 laps. What can Tyler Marble do? What can he make happen here? And for Jeff Marble, can he push his teammate all the way to the front? Watch for Wetzer Jr. He's the next man up to try to make a move here. Danny Gutierrez, though, actually got a bit of a run. Maybe he thinks about jumping out of line here. So we ride on the onboard here for Danny Gutierrez. You can see he's even after the lift just a bit down the straightaway right now. So as they work through turn number 1, Wetzer Jr. is bobbling around just a little bit, but you know, and this is kind of a cool view too because it shows you that rear diffuser that all these cars have, as you can see it there on Wetzer Jr.'s car, and just how big that spoiler is. But that rear diffuser is the reason that we can see 3 wide work so easily here. I don't want to say it's easy in the sense of anybody can do it, but you compare 3 wide here in the Cup cars versus the Xfinity cars or the trucks, and these cars are a lot easier as they have a lot more downforce and are a little bit better at a track like Atlanta here, New Atlanta specifically, which again, this used to be a track that was filled with nothing but bumps and worn out asphalt. But since the repave, it has turned into this kind of hybrid super speedway that provides all the great racing action that we see now. Some drivers love it, some drivers hate it. Either way, it's been changed over to the schedule both in real life and here in the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup series. And so everybody's had to get used to it, and here we go. Tyler Marble, he got a big run on the outside. It is now Team Marble iRacing sitting in 1, 2, 3, 4 positions. And this is about all you could ask for. They have got these 2 lanes locked down. Nobody going to be able to make a move there. I think if anybody else wants a chance at this race, they're going to have to go to the top and make it 3 wide. I don't even know if Tyler Marble will jump down to the inside here. I mean, if you think about it, he's got no real reason to. He's running on the outside of a teammate, so he knows he doesn't have to worry about really anything happening. And on top of that, they might be trying to kind of help that 24 of Brandon Saylor get his first win of the season here tonight. Again, that is the rookie that they picked up this season, the only new driver they picked up for that matter. And so, man, you know, it would almost, kind of mean a lot to not necessarily just Brandon Saylor, but them as well, if they could get him his first win here tonight and a dominant performance with potentially a 1, 2, 3, 4 finish. By the way here, as laps do continue to wind down, I do want to remind you of what the rookie standings are looking like as of right now. Tai Iopolito leads the rookie standings with Quentin Clark in second, Michael Mueller third, Kenneth Bartholomew fourth, and then Mark Zabak rounds out the top 5 as he is the last man running in the rookie standings right now. Two by two, but man, Tyler Marble keeps getting further and further clear. They got to be careful here if he's going to stay up. That gap gets too big. That opens the door for Jeff Marble and potentially even Scott Glasso if they get too far out in front. So the 48 is going to continue to try to manage here as further back. Everybody's trying to find their dancing partner, who they're going to work with here at the end of this race. I think once we hit about 25 to go, that's when it's crunch time. That is when we have got to start getting to the front now if I'm a driver that's further in the back of this pack. Because again, with the way it's set up, I mean, normally it's already hard to get to the front, but like I said, with 2 teammates on the bottom lined up, 2 teammates on the top, the only real lane that's going to have a chance at these guys is going to be that top groove. all the way up by the wall. But even then, on old tires, it's a little dicey. So we'll see what everybody decides to do about it. And I'm sure we'll see 3 wide at some point. It's just a question of who's going to do it. So Andrew Russo, currently the last lead lap car in this pack. Christopher Hall, who's not on the lead lap, still tags on to the end of it. And then Alan Pajari, who's leading the second pack, which is about 4 cars deep. Brett Spod in the 35 runs in that group. Haven't had a chance to talk about him here tonight. He's down a single position from where he started this race at, but overall, good consistency here tonight for the 35 as he still runs inside the top 20. And then his teammate Ryan Haynes, who saw having a great run earlier, unfortunately had some technical difficulties with internet issues, and that has led him to where he sits now, which is in that 21st position. Thomas O'Hara, 22nd. He leads, actually it's Jeffrey Souza who technically leads this third pack, but Souza not on the lead lap, so it's Thomas O'Hara. But I did want to mention that second group that we were just looking at, look at all the spacing, and that's not helping them a bunch, but what is how aggressive they're racing up front, because that gap was almost 10 seconds, as now it's down to just under 9. And that's still a lot of time to make up with, not realistically a lot of laps left, but don't count them out of it. And if we get a caution, of course, that's going to regroup everybody back together and mix things up even more. Notice the scoring tower there on the left, 28 cars still on the lead lap after a race that when we initially started, we had 35 on the lead lap. And so not as many as we see at a lot of different tracks that are a little bit more technical. Again, the draft kind of helping to keep everybody even, at least everybody that executed on that green flag pit stop. And man, Brian Conklin, Brandon Saylor, they have been running this race just about as good as you could ask with the job that they've done on every aspect, leading laps, practicing pushing each other. They've also had to go through a green flag pit stop where they kind of had to lead the charge in, if you will, and they executed on that as well, and it's all paid off now as they're in the catbird seat. Ooh, Wesser Jr., boy, the 12 got really, really hot there going into turn 3, washed up the track, maybe even some slight contact there between him and Tyler Marble. He was lucky that that was not a whole lot worse, as we have now hit officially 30 laps to go. And so with that, we're going to take one more break, going to go side by side, and when we come back, we'll be here all the way to the finish without any cautions, assuming. Stick with us here on Ghost Racing Network. Welcome back to Atlanta Motor Speedway. 24 laps to go in the Atlanta Fall 200. It's been clean and green so far, but you almost start to wonder, is the time bomb starting to tick here, and how long can we keep it that way? Cars starting to get more and more out of shape, and drivers are starting to slowly but surely get more and more impatient as we start to wind down the end of this 200-mile event. And going to be coming to 23 to go, and way up the racetrack goes to 15 to Jeff Marble, almost into the outside wall right there, as he still is on the outside with his teammate Tyler Marble. Brandon Saylor leads the inside with help from his teammate Brian Conklin, and it is still that Team Marble iRacing group 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment, with those first 2 rows being swept. Wesser Jr. on the inside, in the third row, and then Danny Gutierrez behind him in the 4th row. Christian Lodgen still up here, but right now, the big question, the big waiting game is, when do we make the move and who makes the move? And I think the only move to be made is going to be out to that 3rd lane. Maybe you try to split in the middle, although not sure how well that's going to work. Again, this was kind of a tough position, I would almost say, for the rest of the field. Oh, man, hold on to it. Ooh, well, that answers that question. Austin Fitzgerald, he's going to go through the middle, and he just booted one of the rookies right there out of the way. Michael Mueller, I think, tried to kind of block, and uh-oh, here we go. Further out back, more trouble as we got one squeezed in the wall. That was Jared Bundy. He's going to save it, as does Quentin Clark, Cody Matthews. They're all okay. But I was getting ready to say Fitzgerald right there said, I don't think so. If you guys want to stay 2x2, I'm going through the middle, and if you try to block me here, it's going to be a problem. And watch what happens here. It wasn't a big block. It was just that I think it's kind of that decision where it's kind of a game of chicken to a degree, where it's who's going to give out first. Does Mueller try to assert that he's there and he's going to block? Or does Fitzgerald assert that he's there and he's not going to lift? And right there, Fitzgerald kind of wins that battle as he asserts that, yeah, I'm there, and maybe slight contact is what actually sends the 99 up the racetrack. As he goes to the middle, picks up a spot. Now he's going to do it again. 74 looks to the middle as we go back live. This will get him that spot over Wesser Jr. Does Glasso dip down low a little bit to block now? Yes, he does, but man, that is a big, big push. A trio of all Dynamic Autosports teammates trying to get this middle going, and now you start to wonder, what does the Team Marble iRacing drivers do? As, man, they're getting really dicey up here. We're starting to see more doors bumping and banging here. Jake Hickson caught in the middle, not clear. 16's trying to squeeze. Now they're 3, almost 4 wide. As Jake Hickson still caught in the middle, he's going to lose touch with his teammate briefly. And they got to try to get this sorted out here before they get down to turn 1. Another one gets shot off the racetrack. It's Brian Conklin. Fitzgerald checks up. Now Hickson will have the run. Scott Glasso through the middle. He moves up to 2nd. The Team Marble iRacing teammates have now been broken up. Hickson still stuck in the middle with nowhere to go as Fitzgerald's going to jump back out to aid his teammate. And now Ty Iopolito caught on the outside. He's trying to cut them a little bit of a break. Mueller's going to jump to the middle to get around the 19 further back, but up front, still 2x2 for the lead. It's the 24 and the 48. Brandon Saylor and Tyler Marble with just 18 laps to go. And all that action in the span of just a couple laps. That's how quickly things can change here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And I think maybe a couple guys took notes, but look at this. Hickson's going to do it again. I mean, Wesser Jr. is going to defend it, and no, he's just not. He's not going to. Oh, he gets into the 12. Wesser Jr. Contact. Now he's going to get into the outside walls. He's trying to come back down, and he's going to cut off the 19 of Ty Iopolito. I'm thinking he was not too happy about that from the rookie Jake Hickson, but you know what? I was just getting ready to say, all these guys, they just keep leaving it open. You can't do that at these super speedways. You have got to hug the door of the car below you. Otherwise, you are vulnerable to a move like this in the closing stages of a race. And for here, off of turn 2, I mean, Hickson sets him up, gets a good run, goes to the middle. Wesser Jr. tries a block, goes a little lower, and then as they get into the corner here, Jr. gives him the room. Hickson just, as tight as they're running, gets up the track a little bit, gets into him. But again, if you're Wesser Jr., you don't really care about that. You're saying, hey, I gave you the room and you still got into me, so I'm sure he's not happy as, man, Jake Hickson is looking like a veteran out here right now. Remember, he got the win here earlier on in the season at Atlanta. 2nd win after he won at Daytona when the season opener. And, oh, boy, we may have had a big issue here. Oh, Hickson's going to make another move. Jake Hickson now goes to the inside of Jeff Marble into turn 3. And, man, these guys are getting just, I don't even know a word to describe it right now. They're getting picked on by the 16, who is making it look easy as he continues to make moves. But now Saylor jumps to the outside, gives Jeff Marble some aid, and that's the perks of having a teammate right there. Jeff Marble says thank you very much, and he'll take that spot right back from the 16. The big question is, what in the world happened here just about a lap ago to cause all this separation? I know we had some checkups, but I don't think there was anything this bad here. as this lead pack, which was quite a few cars, is now faded to just about none. I'm assuming something happened here when we were looking at a replay. You think, yeah, it did. Oh, big moment here. Watch Wesser Jr. as we get into the corner here. There's a big stack up to 12, tries to dive. Him and the 74 get together, and then it's Calamity out back. I don't know how they all didn't wreck here. I mean, that was a wreck that just never happened. They all saved it. That's the only reason it didn't bring out the caution. But that's a tough break because it separates the field massively. And I want to go back and get one more view here for Wesser Jr., who I think I have an idea of what happened here. It's either a, let's see, is it a big checkup? It is, but I think he's trying to make the move. And to be honest, I think there may have been a little frustration there already with some of the moves that, you know, he saw Dynamic Autosports making to get to the front. He wanted to try one himself, and it just didn't quite work out in that case, unfortunately. And so now this has dimmed that lead pack to really just looks like about a handful of cars. Tyler Marble leading, Jeff Marble second, Jay Kicks in third, Scott Glasso fourth, Saylor in fifth, and Conklin in sixth. And so right now it's basically Team Marble iRacing against Glasso and Hickson, who aren't necessarily teammates, but they may need to work together right here if they want a chance to beat any of these guys right now. Just 12 laps to go. Still a lot that can happen. And by the way, this second group, they're not done kicking just yet. Fitzgerald has now got back within a second and a half, and he's pulling with him a few cars here. Jared Bundy, Ty Iopolito, GT Hawkins, and then that third group has caught the second group. So in turn here, they're going to catch back on the leaders draft as well. And so all of a sudden now, this is going to get really interesting with probably about, I would say maybe 8 to 10 laps to go, is when all these guys are going to have been grouped back together. And once they all get grouped together, that's when the race is going to be back on. And I will say, I know it's only going to be 10 to go, but I still think that we have a pretty good possibility of seeing a caution with the aggression that we've already seen once. And the aggression I think we're getting ready to see again is, further back there. Some tight side drafting going on. Man, Wesser Jr. is still trying to find a spot in line here. Quentin Clark not going to let him have it. 00 goes low. The 12 has to stay high. Danny Gutierrez, though, maybe going to help him out here a little bit and try to catch him. Well, no, he's going to actually go with him here. And so the battle for 12th, realistically here, will continue between these two. And so we go back to the front now. Tyler Marble still leading the way. And, I mean, let's look at the guys up here in the pack and talk about who needs the win, who doesn't. We talked about Tyler Marble, and you know, for Tyler and Jeff, who sit 1-2, and Jay Kickson, all drivers who are in the playoffs. If any three of those drivers win, they get themselves locked into the round of 12, so they don't even have to worry about the next two races. But, you know, realistically here, Tyler Marble, he's feeling pretty good about his chances next week, so you wonder, how does Jeff Marble kind of react to that? And then you think about Jay Kickson. What does he have in store for next week in Bristol? Brandon Saylor not in the playoffs, but still wants to get a win. Brian Conklin in the 37, and then the 4 of Scott Glasso. What can they do at the end of this race? Scott Glasso, he is one of the drivers in the playoffs. Unfortunately, Brian Conklin is not. So it's kind of a 50-50 split. But man, Jake Hickson just continues to try to do everything in his power to stir the pot here, mix it up, and find a way to get around some of these teammates here. And yellow flag is out. Trouble further back. It's Quentin Clark involved. Looks like the 95 may have some damage as well. Clark comes to a halt in the middle of the racetrack just before they get into the quad oval as everybody else is going to go by. Kind of called it to a degree. You knew it. You almost knew it was going to have to happen somewhere, sometime. I mean, I don't know the last time I could tell you that I've seen a race go flag to flag at a super speedway. And so this was actually the group that was trying to catch up. So I'm a little surprised to see this right here, but you know, these two have been battling pretty hard for the last couple laps. Now, granted, that's not to say that there was any ill intent here, but it's certainly a little interesting here. So what we're going to do first is back this up just a little bit more and see if there was anything obvious. I mean, they've been racing hard, but I didn't see any moves that was anything egregious here. Yeah, no, it certainly doesn't appear that was the case. So if we trace that all the way back now to the caution, and let's go to the cockpit view first here for Wes Hurd Jr., and for the 12, I mean, it's been a frustrating last 10 laps or so as he's just, it almost feels like he's been kind of getting picked on by everybody. And as they go down the back here, he's doing quite a bit of pushing on that 00. And yeah, I got to be honest on that one. You know, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. That didn't look too good for Wes Hurd Jr. I mean, there was no real ever lift of the throttle here. I mean, you know, he got on him, he started to get him loose and just never really let off. And this was after he was basically pushing him the entirety of the straightaway. And so watch this again here, but watch it from TV1 this time. Actually, we'll go to the chopper view. like I said, I mean, he's shoving him down the straight here. And yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm not sure if Wetzer Jr. was just frustrated, maybe kind of had enough. But then right here, I mean, he knows. He can see the car in front. He knows that the 00 can't go anywhere. And then right here, there's just going to be... kind of gets onto that left side of the bumper, starts to turn, and then, you know, from the cockpit view, I know he never really let off. Now, to be fair, he did get hit by Danny Gutierrez there, and like I said, we can only see what we can see up here, right? We can't get into the driver's mind, so we don't know by any means if that's intentional, so don't take that as a hard, straight fact that I'm accusing Wetzer Jr. of, you know, intentionally wrecking the 00, but from the angles we have, the looks that we get, you can certainly see why it seems that way, and I'm sure Quentin Clark's probably not too happy. He's probably thinking the same thing we are up here in the booth. Is watch this again. One hit, two hit, gives him a third, and that's the one that does it, and it's a pretty hard hit, though, on the outside wall for Wetzer Jr. That's probably going to be race-ending damage. Yeah, that right front suspension, you can see that wheel is not rolling, so that is going to be race-ending damage for Wetzer Jr. And most likely Quentin Clark as well, who, when he went for a slide, eventually came to a halt. So we get one more view of this here from the TV tower. So there's the initial contact, and yeah, Gutierrez doesn't get into him until kind of the contact already occurred that was to the point of no return. And then, man, look at everybody having to split just about every which way. And Andrew Russo did a heck of a job after he almost got overcorrected and would have went back up into the quad oval outside wall to get it would back up and hold on to it. All right, back up front we go. Tyler Marble currently being scored as your leader. Actually, it's going to be Andrew Russo in the 88. How about that? The 88 is being scored as your leader. I wonder if he stayed out and a strategy if everybody else went in. Either way, Tyler Marble second, Jeff Marble in third. And then you've got Brandon Saylor in fourth with Jake Hickson rounding out your top five. Lights are off on the pace car, so that means we're going green this time. That means it's going to be a 5-lap shootout to decide the winner here of the Atlanta Fall 200. Well, if you're just tuning in or you've been tuning in, we certainly appreciate you being here. Hope that you're having a good Monday night so far. 5 laps to go, and it is going to be shootout style time here at Atlanta. The aggression level is going to go through the roof. It's been a calm race up to this point. Things are getting ready to get aggressive. Here we go. Green flag is back in the air. 5 laps to go at Atlanta. And it's a good restart for the outside. Tyler Marble is quickly going to get to about a half a car length lead over the 88, getting into turn number 1. And right now, if you're Tyler Marble, I got to think the biggest goal right here is to try to get clear and jump to the inside. We'll see if he can do it as they work onto the backstretch. Further back, that's where the moves of 3 wide should be made first. But right now, they're going to get 3 clear up front. Glasso's going to drop low before the 24 can cover. Tyler Marble, though, he will cover as he drops to the inside, gets in front of the 4. Glasso further back, they're already 3 wide. It's Jake Hickson right now. The Dynamic Auto Sports rookie who's caught in the middle. Now it's the veteran for Dynamic Auto Sports, Alan Pajari. He's caught in the middle going into turn 1. And they're trying to get it sorted out back here. Just 4 laps to go. Team Marble iRacing, 1-2 on the outside. Scott Glasso, Andrew Russo on the inside. Is anybody else going to look 3 wide? Watch for Jake Hickson in the 16. Oh, the 3's going to get around. Big wreck. They're all going to pile up. Caution is out. The big one strikes at Atlanta with 4 laps to go. And it's going to collect half the field. And oh my goodness, Jake Hickson all torn up as he comes off the outside safer barrier. Michael Mueller's in it, the 32. Major damage for Caleb Patton. Well, it's going to put us into overtime, but before we talk about that, this was one heck of a wreck, and I think I have an idea where this one's going to start. Just mentioned, watch for the 16 to get aggressive here. Look 3 wide as they get in the corner here. It's not 3 wide, it's some help from out back, which kind of accumulates from a checkup here. See how close the 99 of Michael Mueller's running to the back bumper here of Jake Hickson, and as they get to turn 3 here, Hickson's got to leave a little bit of room, and he just gets ran into from behind by Mueller. That sends him into the 3 of Jared Bundy, and then it's on from there. And this happens in the middle of the pack late in the race. Check it. Guys aren't going to be able to check up as quick. People aren't riding in the back waiting for this. They're trying to get up front, and so you knew this was going to get ugly. And before we actually play the full wreck again, I was trying to see if there was indeed contact. Yeah, right there. And then that just shoots the 3 too far sideways for him to realistically have any chance of saving it. And then watch this. I mean, this is brutal. Look at the cars that pile in. Jake Hickson actually starts to get up in the air as he got wedged. Thomas O'Hara's in it. Kyle Oakley. I mean, there's some playoff implications in this wreck right here of drivers who are really looking for a good run here tonight. And Brian Conklin, I know he's not in the playoffs, but man, he did everything right so far tonight, especially during that second run, and unfortunately, he's not going to be able to come up with any sort of rewarding finish as a result. That was a big hit for Hickson, Conklin, Thomas O'Hara, Michael Mueller. Watch this from the onboard view of Hickson here, and when you get a push like this, actually, this is the onboard view here for Michael Mueller, but we're going to go to Jake Hickson for this. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you can't just slam on the brakes once you get hit. He's trying to manage the gap so that man, and it's just they're all running so close that late, and once he gets turned here, there's that car starting to lift up off the ground before it quickly sets back down. And all the smoke that follows, and Mark Zabak looked like he might have been able to sneak through there right at the end. We'll go to the blimp cam here. And watches, does anybody make it through this that was in the near vicinity? Boy, not many. It was the drivers that were way behind. I think Mark Zabak may have actually been the first driver to get around it. So let's get one more view of this here before we go back live and set up for overtime attempt number 1. And I can bet you that collected all of 10 to 15 cars worth. Again, that was a big one here. It happened with 4 laps to go. And so now as the lights on the pace car are back off, we set up for what is going to be a 2-lap shootout, and again, it'll be green-white checkered / overtime attempt number 1 here at Atlanta. Tyler Marble being scored as your leader. Scott Glasso's in second. You've got Brandon Saylor third, Andrew Russo fourth, Austin Fitzgerald fifth, Jeff Marble in sixth, Ty Iopolito seventh, Jeff Shutt in eighth, Jacob Musso in ninth, and Alan Pajari rounding out your top 10. All right, who's your pick? Get him in now because it is going to be checkers or wreckers most likely here all the way to the finish. And again, we have 3 total attempts at overtime, so if we can't get the job done right here, then we can try it again at least 2 more times before the race would be called official. And for Andrew Russo here, he's kind of on a hot streak here in terms of super speedway, coming off that win at Daytona just a few weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, I should say. And now he's looking to see if he can do it again here at Atlanta. Now, on that last restart, we really saw the outside prevail, but you've got 2 teammates lined up on the inside this time. You wonder if that changes the dynamic a little bit. We're getting ready to find out. Here we go. Pace car makes a left turn. 2-lap shootout at Atlanta. Green flag is back in the air. Good restart. Both lanes get going pretty well. Problem is Scott Glasso doesn't have any help. The 48 of Tyler Marble already getting pushed by the 24 of Brandon Saylor. And it's the 74 of Austin Fitzgerald who's looking to see if he can get clear to jump to the top. He will. Glasso looking to get a run back. Watch for Austin Fitzgerald to jump to the top of the racetrack. No move yet. Now the 74 goes high. Saylor looks to block. Tyler Marble's going to do the same. 24 is going to go around. Down into the pack. Can he save this one? He holds on, and now they're going to wreck out in front again. Back up into the track. Caution back out. The 73 is in it. Pajari slams into the wall. Kenneth Bartholomew gets tagged. Ryan Haynes is in it. Jared Bundy's involved. And blocking up front costs a teammate. And it ultimately looked like maybe kind of led to what is now our 3rd caution of the night. As you can see, the hood on Kenneth Bartholomew bouncing all over the place. That car is worse for wear, if you will. As man, oh man. More playoff implications through this wreck as a result, as well as I was trying to look here to see if, yeah, the 15 of Jeff Marble here, this car is done. And he's just going to lock it up and call it a night. And he's not happy, and you cannot blame him. Tough way to end for Jeff Marble as we go back and look at this one here. Watch from the TV tower first. The start's up front. Fitzgerald goes to make the move. Saylor's going to try to cover. And it's on from there. But let's go first here to right where this wreck's going to start, which is right around... Well, this may not have been where the wreck itself started. This is where the first incident started. I'll put it that way. And so let's watch the chopper view first off. And so here we go. This is going to be coming off turn 2. Austin Fitzgerald sets up for a run. He's got some pretty good momentum. He's going to jump high. 24 is going to block. Tyler Marble's going to block as well. And I think Fitzgerald at this point says, I'm not lifting. I've had enough. And he tries to tuck back in here, actually. And as he goes to do so, and that's kind of that's really a weird look, because watch this. And I'll play this again for you here. Let's change the camera view just a little bit. So watch what happens. As Fitzgerald gets up, we talked about the 24 making a block. Okay, no harm, no foul. Now look where Saylor's at. His left side tires are right about the white line, and Fitzgerald goes to tuck in behind him, and as he does so, Saylor's moving back low, and so it kind of offsets right as Fitzgerald's trying to line him up, which gets the 24 turn down the racetrack, and then he saves it, but then Jeff Shutt kind of trying to save it as well, trying to miss it, if you will. Him and Pajari get together. Pajari not quite able to stay off of him and turns that 27 around. Back into the pack he goes. Wrecks on from there. Some more big hits in this one, too. It's been that kind of night here, at least in the late going. The big hits that some of these drivers have been taking. For Jeff Shutt, you got to think that would most likely have been a night ender with the damage he sustained, but I guess we'll have to see if maybe he can't get back out. As we look at just a few more angles of this one. There's the 27 getting turned around, and once he came back up into the pack, you knew this was going to get big. As it always does here. Not really any place to run or hide, and that one probably collects about another 5 to 7 of them. GT Hawkins gets damage. Just nowhere to go. That was the look from the TV tower view. GT Hawkins almost snuck through, but just fortunately not so lucky in this case. So as we go back live now, up front, lights are off again on the pace car, so we'll try what will be overtime attempt number 2 right here. So again, it'll be a 2-lap shootout. We've got to make it to the white flag for this race to be official. If we don't, rack them up and try it again. Tyler Marble being scored as your leader. Scott Glasso second. Austin Fitzgerald in third with Andrew Russo fourth. And Ty Iopolito rounding out your top 5. Mark Zabak 6th. Kyle Oakley 7th. Danny Gutierrez in 8th. Jared Bundy in 9th. And Thomas O'Hara rounding out your top 10. All right, working through 3 and 4 now. Again, if we can't get to the white flag, we get another caution. We've got one more attempt to make this race official. Scott Glasso looking for his first win of the season. Tyler Marble looking for his first win in the playoffs, as is Austin Fitzgerald, who's got some damage. Ty Iopolito and Andrew Russo looking to get his second win in less than a month. All right, here we go. Green flag is back in the air. 2 laps to go at Atlanta, and it's another good restart from both cars on the front road. But yet again, Glasso, the help is just not there. This will allow Tyler Marble to pull off to a big lead down into turn number 1. And Fitzgerald's going to try the same thing he did last time, pushing for all he's worth. This time, though, Glasso is able to get a bit of a side draft, and the 74 is not going to get clear. Now Tyler Marble works to the high side of the racetrack, looking to block. He'll be able to do so as they work off into turn number 3. Does the 48 go back low? Not yet. He's kind of hanging in the middle. Got to make a decision here. Off of turn 4. Can they get to the white flag? Yes, they can. Oh, they're going to wreck out back. One spin. Did they make it? Yes, they do. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go at Atlanta. They're all wrecking out back. Half the field gets cleaned out. Back up front. Tyler Marble with the lead. Danny Gutierrez in second. Is he close enough, though? Half a lap to go at Atlanta. The 08 is closing, but is he closing quick enough? Final time into turn 3. Tyler Marble still out in front. One final run for Danny Gutierrez. Now he draws within a car's length. Final run off of 4. Is it enough? No, it's not. Tyler Marble wins it at Atlanta. He gets the job done, and he will lock himself into the round of 12 with the win here tonight. And those last 2 laps were very well executed for the 48. So as he'll bring it around to celebrate, let's go back and look at what happened here. And boy, that's always a really, really unfortunate spot there when the caution flies, when it did there, where, you know, it's too late. We're not gonna get a caution because we're taking the white, but at the same time, the wreck's kind of happening at a point where it collects the entire field. As watch this from out back. I mean, like I said, when I said this got everybody, it got everybody. It seemed like from out back of maybe 3rd. And what happens here is just, ooh, Glasso gets slightly hooked down to the 19, and the 74 gets collected, and it's on from there. And people aren't lifting at this point. They're all just piling in, and massive, massive damage as it was a junkyard there for a moment. So let's go back live and watch the celebrations here for the 48. Take a look at your finishing results here for the night. Tyler Marble, your race winner of the Atlanta Fall 200. Danny Gutierrez in 2nd. Great run for him. Thomas O'Hara in 3rd. Alan Pajari 4th. Cody Matthews in 5th. Another great run for him. Brandon Saylor in 6th, Jay Kickson in 7th, Greg Bartlett in 8th, Jared Bundy 9th, and Mark Sabak rounding out your top 10. Jeff Shutt finishes 11th, Brett Spott in 12th, Austin Fitzgerald 13th with Scott Glasso in 14th, and then you've got Andrew Russo in 15th, Christopher Hall in 16th, Kyle Oakley 17th with Ty Iopolito back in 18th, and then, didn't mean to take it down, rounding out your top 20 here tonight. It's going to be Quentin Clark and Glenn Grigsby. 21st, Kenneth Bartholomew, Ryan Haynes 22nd, Jeff Marble 23rd, Jacob Musso 24th, GT Hawkins 25th with Brian Conklin in 26th, Christian Lawson in 27th, Michael Mueller in 28th. Rounding out the top 30 is Caleb Patton and Wes Hurd Jr. Bill Benedict in Jeffrey Souza 31st, Bill Benedict 32nd with Johnny Mahalchuk 33rd, Tracy Powers in 34th. Rounding out the field here tonight was Anthony Hanley in 35th. All right, we're going to go ahead and go grab your top 3 for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Atlanta. All right, going to start first here tonight with your race winner for Team Marble iRacing. It's Tyler Marble. Tyler, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, you grabbed the race win here at Atlanta, and boy, those last 2 laps had to do a lot of things. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to control the field in those closing laps.
Well, first off, I got to thank the teammates for, keeping us up there the entire time, put me into that position to win. Sucks they got caught up in stuff there in the end, but that's just Atlanta, playoffs, all that good crap at the end of these races. Once that first caution came up, you know it's going to happen. But, I wanted to pick the top both the last 3 starts, and I just couldn't. I couldn't let the teammate hang in there, and then I knew Austin was going to be a threat there on the bottom that last restart, so I stayed on the bottom. And as soon as saw the runs come, I was just blocking the runs, and they fortunately they wrecked. I'm surprised I took the white. I didn't think I got to the line before the white came out, but it was smooth sailing from there. So I'd like to thank Danny, all my teammates, and moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on after a great performance here tonight. And, speaking of moving on, next week we head to Watkins Glen. You've already got yourself locked in, but I know that's a track that you really love. So how do you feel about your chances to maybe go 2 for 2 in the playoffs?
I feel great. Bring it on. Gonna get those playoff points. Playoff points are everything. I love that place. I really love that place, and I want some redemption from last year. A little early mistake cost me there, so hopefully we can keep this momentum going here.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Tyler, thanks for talking to us. So before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, again, my teammates. Again, I hate that they got caught up there. This last couple laps definitely shook up the standings, but I think again for everything. You for broadcasting, as always. Sim Racer Hub, Butt Kicker, BMP, DA Designs, iRacing iFlag, Capital Auto, everybody came out. That's just everybody. I mean, we want to be racing without everybody's support. So, Watkins Glen next week. I am looking forward to it.
Sounds like a plan. Well, again, thanks for talking to us, Tyler, and congrats on the win here tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and now that's going to move us on to your second place finisher here tonight, the 08 of Danny Gutierrez. Hey, Danny, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good. Well, you bring home second here tonight. You seem to have a knack for these super speedways, and, man, do you think if you had one more lap, you could have had a chance at making a move?
I think so. Just run out of laps.
Yeah, unfortunately, just not quite enough time there at the end. It looked like you had a little bit of damage as well. But, I mean, overall, I know you didn't quite make the playoffs, but it seems like we're seeing you more and more. Has there been something in the last couple of weeks that's kind of been a turnaround or maybe a switch that got flipped that all of a sudden you're starting to put together these really good runs?
Yeah, you know what? I usually run these for fun, but I've been putting a little bit more time in, just trying to get better. instead of just showing up and racing, and it seems to be paying off.
Yeah, it certainly does. Well, hey, Danny, we won't hold you too long here tonight. We certainly appreciate you talking to us. So before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, first and foremost, I got to thank the good Lord above. I want to thank Team Marble Racing, especially Jeff. You know, he took me in, and he's been good to me, and all the teammates in there. I'd like to thank all the sponsors that sponsor this league, and I'd like to thank you up in the booth.
Thank you again for talking to us, Danny. Hey, congrats on that second place finish, getting closer and closer, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now that'll bring us to your third place finisher here tonight, Thomas O'Hara. Thomas, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy.
Hey.
Well,
Hey,
hey man, how's it going? You bring home a third place finish here tonight, and you made it into the playoffs, but you still needed some points to start to secure your way into the round of 12. You get the job done with a podium finish here tonight. Tell us about that crazy ending and how you're able to get up to third.
I closed my eyes and just drove towards the smoke. Not really. That last restart, the car was messed up there, and I was just able to dodge them, and then I looked up and I was in third. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to watch as well. Sometimes that's the way it goes at the end of these super speedway races. But, I mean, overall, the name of the game for you this season has been consistency. It's what got you to this point, and we see it again here tonight. What can we expect the next 2 weeks before we do get to the round of 12?
As road courses go, Watkins Glen is a decent one for me, and Bristol, I love short tracks. They're where I do best, so got a good shot at Bristol, and just try to keep the car under me and keep the fenders on it till the end.
Sounds like a pretty good plan. Well, hey, Thomas, before we let you head out here tonight to get ready for next week, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, so first, thank you and Ghost Racing Network for broadcasting these, Alloy Wheel Repair for sponsoring the league, the Marbles for running it. I also want to thank Sousa Media, Stin Analyzer, and Boundary Bay Brewery in beautiful Bellingham. So, and the whole Triad Racing team, they're great guys to run with.
And thank you, of course, for talking to us again. Thomas, congrats on the third place finish here tonight, and we'll see you next week at Watkins Glen.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, that is going to wrap it up from me here tonight, for us here tonight, I should say, and all the great finishes, great racing we had here tonight, but it's Tyler Marble who comes out on top in the Atlanta Fall 200. Again, do apologize for a couple of the brief issues here tonight, of course, the one being with the OBS, the side-by-side screens, and then the playoff format, whatever you want to call it, that did not cooperate with me here tonight. I will have them all settled out by next week, so I do appreciate the cooperation. As always, I hope everybody did enjoy. Till next time, I'm Austin Green on Ghost Racing Network. Have a good night.